Why do you think they might be decelerating? Why could that be?
It's a role which can change a young person's chances at life.
She helped me to speak, so that's how I can speak now, because of her.
And with 84% of deaf children now attending mainstream schools, having an extra layer of support has never been more important.
We're an ally, we're an advocate for them.
I couldn't imagine having a child with hearing loss, a deafness or deaf going through education without a teacher of the deaf.
When we press that, it's very visual to them, it's on mute, isn't it? So that's much better.
Amanda McNamara has been seeing Tommy and Lily since they were in nursery.
What's it like having a teacher of the deaf?
They get to help me with stuff I'm struggling with, and if I'm struggling with anything I can just reach out and ask for.
We're one of the very few professions that are involved with a child, right from birth in a lot of cases, all the way through to the leave school.
All you're aiming for here is to be able to give the letter and the number of the coordinates, OK?
Also, you build really strong relationships with them and with their families as well, which is very rewarding, it's lovely. Well, I have to say, both of your processors are sounding really, really good. Your receivers are sounding really, really good. So I am very impressed. Thank you very much for looking after them for me.
A teacher of the deaf plays a crucial role in helping deaf children overcome the barriers they face during their early years and in education.
Such a huge role, and a lot of people don't understand everything we do. So first of all, we are teachers. So we will teach our children and young people in groups or in classes or one-to-one. We will check their hearing aids and their cochlear implants to make sure they're working. We will check their radio aid systems or sound fields if we put them in. We do specialist assessments with the pupils for the language and communication, and then we interpret that so it makes sense to schools and parents. On the other side of it, we are coaches, we are mentors, we are constantly upskilling ourselves because the role changes so often.
With advances in technology, when a child is diagnosed as deaf, there are now more options, like cochlear implants or hearing aids. This is why many young people do go to mainstream schools. But for the 2% in Scotland who communicate using only BSL, there are specialised deaf units attached to some schools.
Where do you think a deaf child would be if they didn't have a teacher of the deaf coming in to see them?
I feel that for deaf children that don't have a teacher of the deaf, they're at a huge deficit. We understand what deaf children need. Now, obviously every child is different, but deaf children quite often need the same sorts of things, and we're very good at being able to say to, first of all, families, then nurseries, and then schools and so forth, this is what you need to do for this pupil. Thank you. I'm going to swap it for the other one.
Tommy is 13. He has profound hearing loss, but has cochlear implants. He sees Amanda 3 times a week at Clydebank High School.
If I need help, then I'm like, then normally Amanda comes in and I get more happier because she's there to help me and I'm not just suffering myself. Because it's always better if someone's helping you that you know for your whole life.
So where do you think you would be, Tommy, if you didn't have a teacher of the deaf?
That'll be a lot different. Like, I wouldn't be in the way I am. I probably wouldn't even speak today because Amanda's the one who's helping me. Also, my family is helping me as well, but Amanda's the one who's, because she's professional, she's trained, and that's what she does, and she's really brilliant at it, and I really need her, and I'm happy to have her on my side.
Aside from one-to-one support, the teacher of the deaf works with other pupils in the class to make sure they're deaf aware. Advice and guidance is also given to the class teacher. All this support is crucial to make sure that the listening and therefore the learning environment is the best it can be for deaf children.
There are only 100 qualified teachers of the deaf in Scotland, despite there being just over 3,300 deaf children here. 14-year-old Megan lives in Fife. Her deafness wasn't picked up until she was years into school.
Well, I was diagnosed at 8 and I was given intensive speech therapy, but before that no one knew I was deaf or anything was wrong, so it was very tricky growing up. But then when I was diagnosed, I think it was in P3, I got the teacher of the deaf, but she only really visited once a year, so it wasn't really the best thing growing up.
It wasn't until high school that Megan started seeing a teacher of the deaf on a regular basis.
And she helps me if I have any problems or I'm stressed, she comes and helps me and makes sure I'm not like that. Everything's just like 10 times easier with her. It's a bit tricky without her.
I couldn't even describe how much pressure was taken off my shoulders. When it all happened, we could all just breathe a sigh of relief. It was great, it was fantastic. And now I know if there is a problem that arises, I'm straight on the phone, or Megan can quickly access Kerry, our teacher of the deaf, if she's in school.
Having that help has built up Megan's confidence to the point she advocates for young deaf people.
There's still a huge attainment gap. We are desperate for change.
Megan also volunteers at Disability Sport Fife.
On your mark, get set, go. And when I'm volunteering, I'm helping little ones, so like if they're needing help doing something, or I'm maybe setting out a task for them. There's deaf people and there's just like people with sensory impairments, learning disabilities and physical. So it's just a big group, so it's just fun to be with people who kind of understand.
Gemma says she's extremely proud of Megan, but she's not sure where she would be without her teacher of the deaf.
I couldn't imagine having a child with hearing loss, a deafness or deaf going through education without a teacher of the deaf, and the fact that we're going to lose another 45% to retirement over the next 10 years, that's really scary. That's probably one of the scariest figures I've heard of recent days.
Cathy Finstone was a teacher of the deaf for more than 40 years and recently retired.
Do you think deaf children have enough support in Scotland?
Absolutely not. There's not enough teachers of the deaf to start with, and it can take you 5, 6+ years to actually qualify, because many of the modules are run every second year.
Cathy says it's hard to attract new people to the profession when there's a lot of training involved on top of a teaching degree.
I mean, who would want to take on a 5+ year training course when at the end of it there's no financial incentive? They don't get any increase in wage.
And it's all down to funding, isn't it? The councils will decide themselves.
Yes, whereas if the government just put the funding into training the teachers, then they would have the resources.
Deaf children in Scotland are twice as likely as their hearing classmates to leave school with no qualifications, and are half as likely to go to university. And with so many teachers of the deaf due to retire in the next decade, the fear is the attainment gap will widen even further.
It's absolutely devastating, because these children need support all the way through their schooling, but ultimately they have the ability to succeed if they're given the right support. You know, they may only be getting 1 visit a week compared to another child who's getting a daily visit, and you'll find that the child getting that daily visit will succeed quicker. We have had a lot of very able deaf children who haven't been able to access the support that they required to go through higher and further education. When they leave school and maybe go to university, they might achieve the qualifications they need, but then they go to university and they've got the same problems that they had in school. They don't have that teacher of the deaf or someone to support them, so many of them just drop out.
For those who do make it to university, there are campuses that are making an effort to ensure education is accessible. Dr. Audrey Cameron has a PhD in chemistry and has taught in mainstream schools alongside interpreters. She has also spent years campaigning for better deaf education.
Do you think a fall in the number of teachers of the deaf will affect the number of deaf pupils reaching university?
If there are less teachers of the deaf, then there's going to be less access to the education further down, you know, at school level. So I think it's crucial that deaf students are given access to education from very, very early on. So they are able then to develop a language, and that is crucial. If they have a language, then they can use that to build on and enhance their education. So it will be, you will feel the effect at various levels for deaf students, absolutely, if the numbers drop.
Dr. Cameron is a tutor at Edinburgh University, the only university in the UK to have a BSL development officer. The facility is also planning to introduce a new undergraduate degree in BSL primary education. But the worry is, despite these efforts, many deaf children will struggle to make it that far after school.
We know statistics show that deaf pupils are only half as likely to reach university level. So do you think it seems slightly backwards, as if we need more investment at the lower level of education to allow those youngsters to move up to higher education?
Yes, yes, I would agree. I think universities work within the kind of education setting, and throughout, I think it's really important that people are working together to encourage deaf students to achieve. Because I think the situation now is the same as I went through when I was at school, to be honest. It needs transformed.
The need for transformation or extra funding is evident. Teachers of the deaf help children like Tommy, Lily and Megan excel and reach their potential. Without them, these youngsters could have been lost in the education system.
Because I'm not insecure about it, I'm not sad about it, I'm proud to be deaf, like, that's a part of me and I can change it, so let's just be happy with it.